Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bible Q&A. Today we're discussing, where did the world get Christianity wrong? 2,000 years ago, Christianity was a humble, welcoming religion. Small groups across the Mediterranean would meet weekly to share prayers and sometimes property, with occasional oversight from leaders in Palestine. Collection was underemphasized and the organizational structure was simple. Now, the faith is a different beast entirely. Denominations can have tens or hundreds of millions of members. Megachurches preach that all you need to do to get salvation is to donate. Priests are being convicted of sexual assault. Pastors are encouraging their members to vote along party lines. What in the world is going on? Well, what's going on is that Christianity is responding to political and economic changes, unlike the early church. St. Paul said, "For we are the circumcision, which worship God in the Spirit, and rejoice in Christ Jesus, and have no confidence in the flesh." Philippians chapter 3, verse 3. Centuries ago, churches were small because anyone rich enough to set up a megachurch probably wouldn't be a very good Christian role model. Now, church leaders are succumbing to the greed that fills our capitalist society, and are taking the opportunity to gain large sums of wealth. Paul worked as a tent maker alongside being a preacher, according to Acts chapter 18 verses 2 to 3, but modern pastors now earn salaries exceeding those of most trades, and instead of giving back to the flock, like Paul advised in Acts chapter 20 verses 33 to 35, they spend all that money on themselves and their families. Pastors are also starting to get involved in politics. Most early Christians couldn't even dream of getting involved in the political systems of the Roman Empire, and they wouldn't want to because of warnings given in places like Revelation chapter 18 verses 2 to 3, foreshadowing the unholy union between church and state. In the modern era, though, churches are now interfering with and getting involved in government business. Catholic and Anglican denominations, among others, helped Canadian and American governments destroy Native American culture through residential schools. Several Christian groups in America are now spending money trying to influence the policies of African nations. Certain evangelicals have tried to rally people behind certain political candidates, despite their moral failings. All their actions run contrary to that simple but powerful verse in Matthew. "Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's." Matthew chapter 22, verse 21. If you live in a democracy, you should vote, get informed, pay taxes, and obey the law, but that should be about where your involvement in politics ends. Also, as centuries have gone by, Christianity has gone from being a thing of the heart to being a series of traditions. St. Paul also said, "Wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances? Touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrines of men." Colossians chapter 2, verses 20 to 22. For example, tithes in ancient Israel actually meant something. They were a gift of gratitude from the Israelites to Jehovah for all he did to establish their nation, and they helped feed the Levites, who were wholly dedicated to God and didn't have any property to earn a living on. Nowadays, tithes are blindly given to pastors who already have enough to sustain themselves, and nobody thinks about how that money could help the community or the faith. This focus on tradition has also redefined a really important word, the church. When the faith started, the word meant a community of believers, which is why several verses, like 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 19, Colossians chapter 4 verse 15, and Romans chapter 16 verse 5, refer to churches and people's houses. Nowadays, however, a church is simply a building where people worship. Now, this doesn't seem like such a big deal, but think of the implications of the switch in definition. If the church is a building rather than a community, then for it to be holy, the building has to be taken care of. It needs to be bigger, better maintained, and more elaborate. More and more money needs to be collected to maintain it. Plus, in our time, when more and more temples and cathedrals are closing down, it seems like the faith is getting smaller and less relevant. But in reality, the number of religious buildings there are doesn't matter. The Jews admired their beautiful temple in Jerusalem, but as Jesus prophesied in Luke chapter 21 verses 5 to 6, the temple was completely destroyed by the Romans. Yet, belief in Jehovah continued in a different form. In fact, belief in Jehovah will also continue in a different form in our time. Yes, a lot of churches are closing down. Yes, a lot of churches that remain have been corrupted by money and politics. But that doesn't mean the faith is dead. We are heading towards a time when no one will need any buildings to serve God, and we can see signs of that now with the rise of the internet. Eventually, people will hear the good news without the influence of corrupt spiritual institutions, and people will know God without having to be taught. As it was said in Jeremiah, "And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more." Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 34. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. Where did the world get Christianity wrong? The church is being influenced by greed and politics, it's creating a religion of traditions, and it's emphasizing physical worship at a time when more and more church buildings are being sold. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.